All right, so as we get started here, if go ahead and mute yourself if you'd be so kind to do so. And there will be time for Q&A as I go. If you have questions, just post them in the chat. Speaking of chat, I'm going to go ahead and post our links for today. And in those links, you will see first a link to the local SEO for churches how-to guide. So that basically walks you through everything we talked about last week, if you were here last week. And it also walks you through everything we're going to be talking about today. There's the second link that you see in there is a link to our ebook, What is SEO and How Does It Impact Your Church? And there's some links there to request support. You can email support@5moretalents.com. You can go to 5moretalents.freshdesk.com and open a ticket there. And then there's some links to book a meeting with Laura if you have questions about additional services or website upgrades. A link to book a meeting with Holly, who can connect you with training and support. And then a link to book a meeting with me if you'd like to do so. All right, so today's topic is part 2 of 3 related to local SEO. And we're going to really look at the topic of claiming other online directory listings in addition to Google Maps. So just stick with me for a few minutes and it'll become more clear what exactly that means, claiming online directory listings in addition to Google Maps. All right, so over the, I was just in a meeting right before this with the lady that helps us put together our newsletters to 5 More Talents customers. And I was explaining to her that what we're doing with these weekly webinars is we're on track by the end of this year to have at least 3 one-hour webinars that deal with each of these 4 topics. So advertising, we haven't directly addressed, well, we haven't addressed paid advertising, but what we're talking about today is an example of unpaid advertising, you could say, local SEO. It's more organic. What can you do just to influence the search engine to rank your church website higher without paying for ads? And of course, there's offline advertising, which we, at some point, probably in the next year, we'll talk about some offline means, because I believe that they can be helpful and complementary in many circumstances. But by the end of this year, so far we're on track to also do some webinars about publishing email newsletters, and then promoting public meetings or outreach events, as well as doing follow-up to the new people that you meet and give an email address or phone number as a result of coming to that outreach event. And then, of course, in June and July, we focused on publishing sermon recordings and transcripts and getting them out on YouTube and social media and all of that. Related to that, if you're wondering how you can, if you weren't here for the sermon publishing and you want to get to those things, so we'll be sending out to all of our customers here very soon, possibly as soon as tomorrow, an invitation to this, which includes a classroom. And that's part of the classroom is the sermon publishing, all the sermon publishing videos we did back in June and July, if you missed those and you want to go back and catch those. But if you want to go ahead and get access to that today, I'll go ahead and put this link in the chat, and you can go ahead and join that group. You know, this is very, very valuable information that we're putting here. We're planning to offer access to these courses to folks who are not 5 More Talents customers, and we're probably going to charge $100 a month for them to get access to these. But for folks that are 5 More Talents customers, you know, y'all are going to get at least till the end of 2025. Every 5 More Talents customer is going to get free access to these courses if you have our website services. So there's a link there where you can go ahead and access these. All right, so let me get back to this. We're almost to today's topic of local SEO. The schedule at this point is in September. We're going to focus on outreach event promotion and follow-up. And then in October, we will do some webinars on online paid advertising. And then November, we'll focus on email newsletters. And if anybody has any ideas for topics you might like to be considered, might like to do in December, then let me know. One idea I've toyed around with is maybe something related to if for churches that have outreach events in connection with the holidays, you know, maybe something specifically related to that. So if any of y'all are interested in that, let me know. Or if you have other ideas for something you really want to be covered either during those 2 slots in December, or maybe just something that you don't see listed here and you're really hoping that we're going to do some webinars on some other topic, just let me know. All right, so last time we talked about search ranking factors, and I'll just recap those in a minute. We looked at how to check your rankings in Google Search Console, how to optimize the homepage for Church Near Me, and how to claim a Google Maps profile. And again, if you need a step-by-step walkthrough of those, that first link I put in the chat, which I'll paste it again right now, is that local SEO for churches page that has guides with illustrations step-by-step how to do all those different things. Today, we're going to look at claiming other online directory listings in addition to the Google Maps profile, such as Bing and Facebook. And then there's a bunch of other less well-known but not insignificant online directories. And then next week, we're going to look at a very important thing, which is how to implement an online review request system. So why is this important? Well, I think if you're here, you recognize that it's important, but just to recap, it's important because more people are searching for a church near me than at least since 2020, right? I was tempted to say than ever before, but definitely since 2020, the increase in the number of people searching for a church near me, or even, you know, Presbyterian churches near me or Reformed churches near me, it's all of those have increased. None of them have decreased since 2020. And in the aggregate, they've increased they've more than doubled since 2020. So more people than ever before, well, since 2020, are searching online for churches near them. So how does Google, how do search engines determine which churches to show when somebody searches for church near me? Well, let's recap this. So here's an example, church in Northport, Florida. And you can see for this type of search, Google will typically almost always display a map with 3 items, the top 3 items. So one of them is something that is very hard to change, and that's just proximity. So typically what you're going to see, I'm guessing this is basically more or less the center of Northport, Florida. So there's short of like moving the place where you meet, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. The next thing that I hope stands out to you is just the number of reviews. So this first one here has 192 reviews. The next one has 137 reviews. And the third one has 22 reviews, as well as a specific quote from somebody. The next thing I want to point out is each of them has a category: Catholic Church, Christian Church, Baptist Church. So that's a little detail that's important to take note of. And then the last thing I want to point out is that all of them have a time listed. So it's very important to be very thorough when you claim your Google Maps profile, as we talked about last week, to fill in as much detail as you can. And actually, there's a surprising amount of detail. There's even a way that we didn't talk about this last week, but there's even a way you can give a post. You can post an update on your Google Maps page. But you can see that all of these churches have listed specific times that they're open and closed. And then I guess the other thing that I would mention, you can't see it here, but for the completeness of a profile, you want to have some photos as well. But you can see here, just to recap, reviews and completeness of the profile, for example, having the hours filled in, and then the categories. Those are all factors that you can influence to improve the search visibility. So just here's a more thorough review of the different features, and we'll start from the gray this time. So the first one here is personalization. What that means is that the search engines, when you're logged in, and maybe even to some extent when you're not logged in, but definitely when you are logged in, they keep track of what you search for. And they use that information to maybe show you websites that you've recently visited, or to show you things that they think you in particular would be interested in. Really not much that we can do about that. That's just kind of what people's personal behavior is. All right, the next one is behavioral/mobile signals. So this is that little gray slice. I think there are some things that you could do to affect this. So I think the photos that you put on your profile, or the reviews that people leave, like if we look at this one, a very wonderful worship time with Lord Jesus. That's just a very encouraging, inviting quote, right? So those kinds of things might make it more likely for somebody to click through. Making sure that you have, anyway, anything that kind of shows up with the listing for your church, that you can see here, this one also says it's open, right? So if it's listed as open, I might be more likely to try to call this church than one that says it's closed, maybe. I don't know. Anything that you can do about the information you put on your profile that would make it more likely for people to click on it would be helpful here. But again, that's just a relatively small ranking factor. The next one here, the dark gray, is the social signals. So this relates to Facebook likes and Twitter followers. We're not going to really do any specific training on this aspect in these webinars, but it's worth mentioning that that is something that the search engines can see, and the number of people that like your Facebook page or Instagram or any of those public profiles, that is thought to be a ranking factor. Okay, now this dark orange, we already saw in that example of the churches in Northport, Florida. We saw that the top two churches that were shown had over 100 reviews, and so the more reviews that you can get on your on your Google profile, on your Bing profile, on your Facebook profile. I would just focus on those three, probably in the order of Google, Facebook, Bing. That tremendously helps. All right, these link signals, inbound anchor text, linking domain authority, linking domain quantity. This is not something we're going to talk about in these local SEO webinars, but what I would recommend that you do is go back to the recording we did on full text sermon publishing, and really that whole sermon publishing series, because that whole series was about really the first, I think, 4 parts of that series was all about how do you structure the sermon library on your website so that it gets as far out as possible into the search engines. And the farther out that it is, the more likely you're going to have other websites linking to your website. I will also say, I'll put in a plug for the new, this is a separate entity from 5 More Talents, but I have the privilege of being involved with the Bible Answers project, which is, oh my, it's not doing a very good job loading. That's that's surprising. Yikes. Come back to that. Anyway, the Bible Answers project, if it loads, I will come back to that. But one of the things on that site is that what we're doing with that project is we're publishing really high quality content on Bible related topics that people are searching for. And the authors, there's a byline included on there where it can link back to the church website of the author. So, that is a way that something like that, anytime you have another website that is linking back to your website, that's what part of these link signals. And Jeffrey has informed me in chat that there is a server issue with one of our vendors right now, so that's probably why that site isn't working. So that's part of what we do behind the scenes at 5 More Talents is every day, typically there's some kind of, with 250 plus websites that we support, there's some kind of a blip that we have to at least be aware of. Usually they're resolved very promptly by our vendors, but if not, then we go and talk to them. All right, just to wrap this part up, on page signals. So this would be simply right here, presence of NAP, that means name, address, phone number. So just your church website should clearly list the name, address, and phone number of the church. It should be accurate. As we talked about last time, you should have the church, the homepage of it should be labeled, church, church near me, church in such and such a city and state. Let me just go back to the previous one because the Bible Answers Project website came up. All right, so this is an example. If you have another website that links to yours like this, this is a link back to that church website, which helps this Eastgate church website rank higher in the search engines. So when it's talking about link signals, that's what that means. Could also be a link from a denominational directory, something like that. All right, and let's see. Place page signals. So just making sure you have not only does you have the name of your church listed, but it's actually categorized as a church. All right, and then really what we're talking about today is this darker yellow piece of the pie, which is external location signals. And this is, it says it's very cryptic: IYP, aggregator, NAP, consistency, citation volume, etc. Basically, what NAP stands for name, address, phone number. So consistency means that your name, the name, address, and phone number of your church should be linked consistently and as high a volume as possible. So you want the name and address and phone number of the church to be consistent across all websites and to be across as many different websites as possible, right? And that is that the more consistent it is and the more widespread the references to the name, address, and phone number of the church, the higher that that website will tend and location will tend to rank in the search engine. All right, if you have any questions on these ranking factors, just go ahead and put them in the chat and maybe I can answer them before we get on to the next thing, or definitely at some point before we're done today. So what I'm going to share with you today is I want to just underscore this is very, very valuable information. What I'm going to do today, what I'm about to do in the next few minutes, is share with you some of the key steps that we take for delivering our silver level local SEO service package, which we sell for $720 a year. So I'm essentially getting you started on doing this yourself. So this is very, very valuable information that if you're so inclined, you can do this yourself. All right. So what we're focusing on is just looking at whether the information for your church is consistent and widespread across the internet, not just on your Google Maps profile or your website, but across all different websites. So if any of you have if any of you would like to volunteer your church as an example for this, then go ahead and put it in the chat now. I'll be happy to use that as an example. If not, then I have a different one queued up, but I'll just give a minute. If any of you would like to use yours as an example, just let me know and I'll do that. So any takers on that? What I'm going to do is just run a report from Moz Local, and it has to be someone that we don't already have, someone who's not currently a local SEO customer for this. So, all right, I don't see any takers, so I'm going to do this example if I can find it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to use Wellspring Presbyterian Church as an example here. Okay, so there's different companies that provide tools related to local SEO and managing the directory listings related with your business or organization, or in this case, your church across the web. One of them is Moz. I'll talk about a couple of other alternatives momentarily. But they have this tool that's Get My Free Listing Score. So it's very simple to use. You just plug it in. And you just want to copy the exact name. What I did is I just searched for the name of the church. And just fill in. I think this will work. I might make, okay, it's just a street and number. So I think it'll be okay if I don't put the city and state in there. All right, so basically what this does is this just searches a number of online directories and it produces a report, and it looks at, see, a number of different things. It looks at whether the information is correct, whether the information is missing, and whether, how complete it is as well. Okay, so you can see here that in the case of Google and Google Maps, it lists hours, so that's good, but it does not list photos. On these two sites, NavMe and EasyLocal, the listing is not found. On Judy's book and US City, the address is listed differently and the website is missing, and it doesn't have hours or photos. And then city squares are similar problems as well. So you can see there's actually a lot of improvement opportunities here. Okay. All right, so yeah, let me do one more example of this. Okay, so we're gonna do, someone else in the meeting volunteered. Church. All right. So, what you do is you just gotta. This is what I always do. Is I just I'm assuming the Google Maps profile is the most correct. I just copy and paste the information off of that. It might not hurt to put in the city and state, but in this case, I didn't. But that's something you could experiment with. This one is taking a little bit longer. All right, let me, there we go. Okay. Okay. So in this case, shows that on Google, the hours are not listed. Facebook, it says listing not found. Now, this report is not perfect, but I think what's going, a lot of times when it says Facebook listing not found, the church still has a Facebook page. But I think what's going on here, if it says listing not found, is that that Facebook also has a way to list a place which is distinct from a page. So that may be what's going on here if Community Bible Church already has a Facebook page. If they don't have a Facebook page, then that would also maybe explain it. Okay, this shows Bing. There are no hours or photos. NavMe and EasyLocal listing is not found. Judy's book, the website is missing. City Squares, the website is missing. Basically, everything is missing hours and photos. So there's a lot of improvement opportunities. So let me transition into the next part of this. All right. And before I do that, let me try to address the question that has come in. What do you mean by list? Are you referring to the tags we use in the website? Is there a way you can clarify that question? It's not quite computing with me. Maybe you could clarify that, or maybe it makes sense to someone else and you could interpret that for me. I think 1 Corinthians says that when there's speaking in tongues, there needs to be an interpretation. So maybe anyway, I'm not understanding the question yet. So
Curtis, maybe you could unmute yourself and just ask the conversation, or ask Daniel or that might offer some additional clarity.
or just rephrase the question. Happy to answer it, but I need to understand it first. All right, so we'll come back to that once it's clearer. So now the nice thing about this report is that, of course, Moz is trying to use this so that you will then buy their software service. But you don't have to do that. You can actually use this to just manually claim the listings. So for example, you'll see that many of these have a hyperlink. So you can click on, well, let's click on Bing.
Is now a good time to ask my question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when you say the list, I was typing with one finger, so I had a problem. But when you say list, are you talking about, when you're building the website on that page, and you're supposed to put tags in there? Is that what you mean? Like, what are you talking about when you say lists? Is that when we build it or something else?
Where did you see list, or when did I say list? Was that back here? Or was it when I was talking about the report?
Yeah, if it's gonna slow down the webinar, we can skip it. But I'm just saying, I know when I was building the website,
yeah,
you're supposed to put tags so that when people look for stuff, they can, if they type it in search, it'll reference on the web page.
Sure.
You said something about what were you talking about? I need my glasses. Anyway.
Okay. So
name, address, phone number, keywords, and titles, maybe, or
okay, yeah. Let me go back to that, because this does relate very much to our topic. So on-page signals, I think what you're asking about is it's related to these on-page signals, which is this light orange piece of the pie. And it's also related to what we're talking about right now, which is these external location signals, which is so first we need to define NAP. That just stands for name, address, phone number. All right. So as far as what should be on your website, it's very simple. Clear, consistent name, address, and phone number of your church should be listed on your website. Secondly, as we talked about last week, where it says keywords and titles, what I recommend is just that, as we talked about last week, you have, let's just do a little test here. Okay, you see, so this Community Bible Church is doing exactly what I recommend. It says church in Manchester, Michigan, right? Sometimes churches have kind of outlandish names, okay? A lot of them are not as outlandish, but the point is that out of all the different things that people can search for related to church, the most common thing is church near me, or even Presbyterian church near me, or Reformed church near me.
May I?
Yes.
Are you just talking about the words we use on the web page, or are you talking about, I don't know what the word is, hyperlinks or stuff behind what people see that connect everything on our web page to the internet? Or are you just talking about the words we use that people see when we type it in?
Yeah, this is just what people, so this one is interesting. This is what shows up in the browser tab. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see up in the browser. Yeah. Okay, that's very, very important. It's the only place it's listed is in the browser tab. It's not listed anywhere on the body of the page. But what I like about this one is that it does, let's see. Well, it does clearly say, okay, yeah, it does say here, it lists that address, it lists the address. I mean, this might be even better if on the homepage and even on every page it clearly listed, kind of together in one place. I think this would be better if it said Community Bible Church, and then the address, and then it also listed the phone number. That would probably be the most ideal. But obviously that's something that's clearly visible. This, I guess, could technically be you could think of it as code behind the scenes, but it does show up in the browser tab, and that's the HTML title tag.
So is that intentional? Whoever built their website typed something in on their development page that made sure that information came up on the tab, or is it just in the tab because it's on the screen when you look at it?
That's intentional. We dealt with that last week when talked about configure Yoast SEO settings for the homepage.
Yeah, I want to watch that. Okay, I couldn't make it. All right, thank you.
Yes. Yep. Okay. So what we're talking about today is very complementary to this, because what we're saying is the name, address, and phone number of the church needs to be listed consistently across as many different websites as possible. Okay. So the big inconsistency I'm seeing here, I'm not seeing any, although I do see an inconsistency in the phone number. So like Judy's book lists a different phone number, right? So that's an inconsistency. And then and here's another example of that different phone number, right? So that needs to be cleaned up. And then you see also the website is missing, right? So basically the search engine is it's not getting a clear signal. There's a pretty high noise to signal ratio here. So back to this topic of how you can use this to manually claim listings. All right, what you can do is you can, not all of them, but many of these directories have a link. You can just click on it. They're highlighted in blue, right? And it takes you directly to that place. And almost all of these directories have a very visible claim now button. I'm not going to walk you through like all the ins and outs of what, all the hoops that every directory makes you jump through, but just look for something like this. It says claim now. And so, Bing will kind of has something kind of similar to what Google Maps makes you do. So you can go through that process, and the key is just to keep it consistent. You can go down to the next one that I see a link is Judy's book. See, Judy's book also has a claim button. So you can click on that and you can submit your information to them that way. City Squares, they have a button that says claim, so you can go through their verification process. All right, so you can use this report without paying a dime to Moz, and you can fill in that information at each of those directories. All right. And that's one way you can use this. The other thing that you can do is you can use the Moz Local software and sign up with them, and that's kind of what I'm going to transition into now. So I think given the the number of different directories out there, you can see some of these are systems that cars use with their GPS, right? So those don't necessarily provide a way for you to claim those, but that's a way that you can, working with something like Moz Local can help you get your information so that it's accurate into, some of these like, I think some of these are things that cars use or something like that in their GPS. All right, so let's talk about that now. Okay, so we're going to just do a quick crash course on local SEO software. So there's basically three major options that are on my radar. One of them is called Semrush. Another one is called BrightLocal. And then the third one is called Moz Local, which we've been looking at. All right, so Semrush, BrightLocal, and Moz. All three of these provide a software that does something like this. So I know this is a really, really complicated diagram, but it does visually depict what something like Moz Local or some of these other software tools do. And basically what it does is it provides a way for you to deal with one important aspect of increasing your search rankings. And that is, like I've been saying, making the name, address, and phone number consistent across as many different directories as possible. And as you can see, there's a lot of different things out there, right? TomTom, for example, that's the one I was trying to think of. TomTom that is bought by all these different automakers, right? So you want to make sure that your information about your church is accurate in a car's GPS system. That's one of the directories that Moz Local distributes and synchronizes information with, right? So that's basically the main thing that a software like Moz Local does. There's also additional tools that they have related to reviews. We can maybe talk more about that next week. All right, I'm going to move on to the next part, but if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. All right, so sign up for Moz Local. So I'm just going to kind of show you how you could get started in that process if you were so inclined. And so one way to do it is if you've run a report, you can just click here, Improve with Moz Local, and it'll get you started in the checkout process. And you can see that they have a way you can pay monthly and a way that you can pay yearly. I'll just walk you through kind of what you could expect from the process using our scribe guide here. So I included a link to this in the chat. So basically, you're going to choose your plan. You'll create a username and password, input some billing information. And then you basically need to kind of verify and fill out some additional information. It walks you through, like, here's some of the additional details you really need to have in all of the directories. Phone number, categories. So there's categories for church, Reformed Church, Presbyterian Church, Evangelical Church. They're all in there as categories. You can put in a description, and then you can put in hours. All of these are kind of basic configuration. And then you save all that, and at that point you've input like just the bare minimum basic information. And then what Moz Local does, and what these other tools do something very similar, Semrush or BrightLocal, is they probably the primary function that they provide is just synchronizing that information among all these different directories. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit more details about, once you're inside of Moz Local, some of the couple important things to do and to look for. So one of them is Google and Facebook. They have, like, you have to set up a kind of an authorized connection between Google Maps and Moz Local. So an example of what that looks like in Moz is, we'll just go here. You see it's asking me to connect Google, but I'll show you another way to get to it. So if you go here to the listings, all right, you can see Google and Facebook both need to be connected. And you can just click connect. It'll open up a dialog box. And again, I'll just walk you through what you can expect from that process. It's important because you want, again, it's just part of synchronizing your information. So if you go through that process, it's going to look something like this. We already did all that. All right, you just click start, you connect your Google account. So your Google account has to already have access to the Google Maps profile. And then they just congratulate you, and then it's connected. So you need to do that specifically with Moz Local for Google and Facebook. All right, and then let's look at some other things. So I gave you a glimpse at what that kind of initial onboarding looked like, but then you can see here, it still says the profile completeness. is still not at 100%. So it walks you through, you see there's green dots for different things that can be added. So here, what is it saying? Okay. You want some keywords to be added. Attributes. So think there's all kinds of interesting things under there. But one of them I think is pretty important is wheelchair accessible. There's if you're wheelchair accessible, then there's a way to indicate that. See what else we have. All right, and then there's a place to put in photos and even videos. All right, so that gives you a glimpse of how that works. All right, so that's under this heading of updating your listing information in Moz Local. So then what Moz Local, or one of these tools does, again, it synchronizes that information out among all of these different directories. All right, and just to kind of connect this back to the ranking factors, that is this that's this kind of yellow piece of the pie here on the right. Right, so again, it's not none of these things are like slam dunk. If you just do this one thing, you're gonna rocket your profile to the top of the list. But this is a significant piece of the puzzle that we've been discussing today. All right, so good question. Yes, question is Moz Local a paid subscription? The answer is yes. It is a paid subscription. This is something that we've been using with our customers, and found it to be a good tool. In some cases, we found that over the course of a year, that by just following this process that I've kind of shown you some of the key aspects of it today, by following this process, using this type of software, that you can, if you go back and look at the statistics, a year later, I've seen multiple instances where there's a 50% increase in traffic from search, a 60%, 70% increase. This stuff is not, it's not Instacart. This is more like farming. Okay, you kind of got to go out there and pull weeds and plant seeds and so forth, and it takes a while for it to make an impact. All right, so Curtis, you're asking a great question. Is there an open source Moz? If you find one, let me know. I'd love to be aware of that. What you can do is to just, it goes back to my recommendation about, let's see, let's type that in again. You can basically use their report and just do, you can manually claim and maintain those listings. So that is a way, if for whatever reason you don't want to pay for the software fee, you can, they still make this report you can run it for free. Anyone can run it for free. And then a lot of the links, you can click on them. It takes you to the exact place on that directory where you can claim the listing. And it's if you're not afraid of a little bit of work, then you can use it that way, and you don't have to pay any software subscription fees. I will say I'm very excited about our topic next week, because my hunch is that for many churches, this topic of online reviews is probably the most significant thing that they could be doing that would make a notable difference in their search ranking. And that is basically having a better system for requesting online reviews and then responding to online reviews as well. So again, why those are important, we just, if we look at, if we do any of these searches, we go back to this example here, right? You can see these top two had over 100 reviews. The third one had 22 reviews. The more reviews that you can get, that's going to really help your search ranking. So it may seem kind of goofy, may seem kind of silly, but it's something that I think you just do. I mean, let's just do a couple of examples here. Let's do. Now, I happen to know that Manchester, Michigan is a small town. So, but even here, you can see that these top three results, they all have at least 10 reviews. You can see this is a small town. Or if we look at a different place, right? These ones, I mean, the lowest one has 16 reviews. So that's why next week we're going to be talking about ways that you can implement a system to request online reviews. And I even have one of the bonuses I'm planning to share is a friend of mine came up with a way that even AI technology can be leveraged to help create responses to online reviews, which is, that's something that can also be helpful. I think probably stands to reason. If you're responding to your reviews online, acknowledging them, then that's sure to be some kind of a positive signal. So that's what we'll be talking about next week. All right, well, that's all I have for today. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
Two things. First one is, everyone probably knows this, but I, for some reason, can't remember. Okay, first question is, how do we access the links in the chat outside of a webinar? Like you said, you're going to be linking things in the chat. How do we go back and link on those if we're not in a webinar like this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what you should be able to do is just copy and paste those links from the chat into like a text file.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and then you could save them for future.
So they're not like accessible on 5 More Talents website or something?
No, not directly, but if you just, can you see him there in the chat?
I'll have to look. Yeah. I'll check.
Just
All
some
right.
input on that, fellas.
Mm.
Once this webinar is over, the chat's gone. It does
Yeah.
not get saved with the recording.
Oh, okay, good to know. Okay, I'll copy and paste that. The other question is, and I don't know if you're going to address this next week, but every once in a while you'll get a troll review, and I think I talked to you about this. You at the time you weren't able to do a lot, and I went through the whole process of whatever you call that on Google, requesting I don't know, whatever that is, an edit or a review of the review or something. And it seems like people are just at liberty to, if they say something, like if they troll, it almost seems like there's no way to remove the review. Are we going to make progress on that and figure that out?
It's a good question. Let me just see here. Okay, so when you have, I would say, first thing is make sure that you have claimed your Google Maps profile, assuming you have. When you do a search for your church, you should see something like this. And one of the things here you can see is read reviews.
Yeah.
Right? And you can reply to them. Right?
Yeah.
And then I guess maybe you're already familiar with this, but it does say manage reported reviews. So yeah, so it's a good question. I'm not intimately familiar with that process, but there is, like you're mentioning, there is a way. I would say in general, the best thing to do is just to respond to the review. I recognize that there may be some edge cases where it really is just somebody just off the wall misbehaving, and so there is a mechanism where you can request a review to be removed, but it's they don't. I think that's what this is. Again, I'll have to look into it more and get back to you.
Yeah, I just followed the trail and I did all that, and I left my information on Google, and it just seems like it's almost impossible to address a troll and remove a bad review. I don't know. Google just doesn't seem responsive.
Yeah. I'll look into that some more and try to come up with a better answer for you on that next week.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right.
Daniel, this is Joe. I have a question and
Yes, sir.
a comment regarding Moz, and it populates and synchronizes these different search engines. We ran into a problem when, as you know, we have a school, Covenant Christian Academy, on our premises. And when I went in and claimed the Google business account, as it were, with the school, then I came in to do it for the church, and it wouldn't let me do it because it was the identical address. However, doing some research on it, I discovered that we had to separate out our phones. The school had to have a separate phone number. The church had to have a separate phone number. Then it worked.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if, as you're doing this on the other sites, would you run into a similar problem, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what I've at least as far as I can't think of any instance I've run into with that using Moz, but with Google Maps, I mean, I can think of many examples where Google Maps allows multiple different entities, like legal entities, to share an address. So they're actually, it's a pleasant surprise how flexible Google Maps is in that regard.
Yeah, once I figure that out with the phone number, because we got our Resurrection, our Vietnamese church, I'm getting ready to claim it. It's got a different phone. They have to use a different phone number. They're going to be using the cell phone for the pastor there.
That's one thing that they say in the Google Maps documentation, is that they're fine with different things being at the same address, as long as they are clearly separate entities. So
thank you.
Separate legal entities. Yeah.
Yes, Daniel, we have had the similar problem, and I just did a search and our church doesn't appear, but other days it does appear, and it comes and it goes. So do you have any idea why that is?
I think, like I've been saying, that the biggest thing is reviews.
Okay.
Biggest thing is reviews. So
how can we review it if it doesn't show up on the map?
Well, what you can, that's what we're gonna talk about next week.
Okay.
So the short answer
Wait till
is
next week.
basically what you need to do, all right, is what you need to do is come up with a system which incorporates these kind of links. So one of the things I'm going to show you all next week is how to make a QR code out of
Okay.
this, or how to include it in an email blast with a button. Okay. We make it really easy for people to know exactly where they need to go to leave their review.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're out of time for today. Great questions.
So is there a way to, for me to see the recording of these future webinars? Because I have conflict on Thursdays.
Okay. So yes. So just watch your email for an invitation. We're going to start sending out these invitations very soon, possibly as soon as tomorrow, to this church outreach group. It's on school.com, and school is misspelled. Haha. But it's on school.com, and there's a classroom feature in here. So we're going to be adding a local SEO section of this as well, and that's where they're going to be kept.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Great questions. Thanks for your
Thank you,
time.
Dan.
Yep. have a
Thank
good one.
you.